Hi, thanks for having me. The talk for tonight is called Devkit by the people for the people, and it's not about the Cuban Revolution. First, a few things about myself. My name is Vítor. Working on my own consulting firm called Noise Labs Consulting, also collaborating with a few other PHP developers at Team Neve. You can follow me on at Noise Labs on Twitter and read my blog at noiselabs.io. And first, the thing why I'm here tonight is because we are still not working together in our projects, and this bothers me. Because we should, because I think this is creating waste in our process, and I do like efficiency. So this is something I'm committed to. So picture this. This is your first day on a job. You arrive at your new job. You have all of your access sorted. You want to set up your environment, and you look for documentation, for up-to-date documentation, and there is none, because nobody is maintaining that. So you ask around, and you get some replies from a work colleague, and it just tells you to run Docker Compose. That's what you do. You run Docker Compose, you're all good, but then your app doesn't load. You just get a 500, because guess what? You also have to run the database script thing, which was not part of the first step. And then you keep going. You don't see any changes because you also need to clear the cache, and that's nowhere. And it goes on and on and on. And so the same developer has a ZH script for that, but too bad you're running fish. So now it's impossible to get that script on your machine. And then you find out there is a more complete script, but it uses Ruby. But it's a PHP project. And so what we found out is every single developer has their own scripts for setting up the environment, and the setup process means something completely different. And it needs to stop. Does this sound familiar at all? Anyone facing the same problem? Good, if you're not. So every cool presentation has a slide about a quote. So here's mine. I took it from Wikipedia. A team, a group of individuals working together to achieve a goal, and working together is the key. Here. So the question is, why are we not cooperating? And I think it's because it's harder. It's just easier to get on with your own scripts, write your own thing without having to worry about if it works on other people's machines. It's the classic, it works on my machine. And collaboration requires individual effort because you have to be mindful of others, and you will need to make concessions. So introducing a common tool is something that's hard, especially if it's an already running project. You will find resistance. People just use their own scripts, their own way of working. But in my opinion, it is worth it, because having a common tool will enforce a common process. And I think that's a good thing. So that comes Devkit, which is a short name for Developer Toolkit. And I know we're thinking, this is a really, really creative name. Bravo. Thank you. But this talk is not about a tool. It's not about Devkit. It's about your team's tool. It's about building your team's tool. And it's a tool that should be built by the team and for the team. So now I'm going to show you a few guidelines on how to build this common tool. First, we should pick the mainstream programming language. So if it's a PHP project, please pick PHP. Just not on the whims of some dev that prefers Ruby and complains about PHP all the time. If you're working on a JS project, go with JS. We want everyone to be able to contribute to this tool. And also be inclusive. If you have developers working on Linux, on Windows, on Mac machines in the same project, make sure that it works for everybody. We don't want to exclude anyone. We want this tool to work on everyone's machine, and also invite everyone to contribute. But set some boundaries. So if they have some exotic setups, and for instance, if you need to use a shell, just go with Bash. Just pick something standard. Make some compromise. Also, make it really, really easy to push fixes. If it takes too long to push a fix, if the process is too complicated, you're not getting fixes to this tool. It needs to be really, really easy because this is not production code. And also think about non-developers. So you might have your business analyst. He may want to run the app on his local. So you might have no idea what Composer is. So please include that in your documentation. Don't exclude it. So think about non-developers. Self-documentation is nice and something that I'm going to show in a bit later. But also, please include a simple README file with some steps, maybe the link to the Composer, why we need it. And so what we get in return if we build this common tool for the project, something obvious, which is if there is an issue, if there is an update on, let's say, on macOS, we don't need, and you have 10 different developers with their own scripts, we don't need to patch it 10 times. We fix it once and it will work for everybody, everywhere. And we are now speaking a common language, and I think this is an important one, because it means that the process means, so the setup environment, the setup step will mean the same thing for everybody. It's not like 10 different steps, it's just one. It is self-documented, and as another benefit, you'll see that the onboarding will be much easier, much faster, so you will be saving money for your company, which is a good thing. Another quote from Design of Python, there should be one and preferably only one obvious way to do it, and this relates with a common language and a common process. So this is my own version of Devkit that I use for my own personal projects, and if you may use it just to get you started if you don't have anything. And it uses PHP. It is available at noiselabs/devkit on GitHub. It has loads of commits, as you can see. It builds on top of the Symfony console component, which is quite a good component for CLI tools. And basically, you just clone, Composer install, and you get 2 folders. One for your own app, for your own project, and the one is Devkit itself. The first one is just an example of how to use this in your project. Now some coding time. Devkit, the Devkit application extends the Symfony console application, and you get a Pimple container for free, so you can register and get some services. It ships with a few commands by default, so stuff like Docker and Vagrant command, so you can interact with your Docker containers and Vagrant. It has some pre-built utilities, some helper classes like Docker Compose, so you can run commands against a Docker Compose environment. This is your entry point for your application, and your application will look like this. You just add your own specific commands. And finally, a command will look something like this. You'll have maybe a cache clear step. You put your containers with Docker Compose, you do database reset, and now this means this is your env up process, and it will be the same for every single developer. When a developer arrives on the project, this should give him or her a working environment, and that's it. And you also get this list of commands, which is what I described as being self-documented. So everything that the tool includes. So before you go, build something together, strive for efficiency, and be happy. Thank you.